My name is Mia Reynolds. I am 34 years old, and until that afternoon, I thought I knew exactly how much humiliation I could swallow for the sake of family. Then I walked into the back of a small restaurant holding paper plates and a lighter for my daughter's birthday candles, and I saw her cake sitting upside down in the garbage. Pink frosting was smeared across the black trash bag. The little sugar butterflies she had picked herself were broken in half. Her name, carefully written in white icing, had been dragged through coffee grounds and napkins like it meant nothing. Behind me, the room went quiet in that way people get quiet when they know something cruel just happened, but are waiting to see who will say it out loud. My brother Mike leaned against the counter with a grin that did not pretend to be sorry. When I asked what happened, he laughed and said, "Honestly, she wasn't worth wasting a cake on." My daughter Ava stood beside me in her blue birthday dress, still wearing her paper crown, staring at the trash like she was trying to understand how a cake could disappear before anyone even sang for her. I did not scream. I did not throw a plate. I picked her up, felt her tiny arms lock around my neck, and walked out while everyone watched. The next morning, my mother called crying. "Please call the venue," she begged. "They're about to cancel your brother's wedding." I looked at Ava sleeping on the couch, her paper crown folded beside her, and said, "Sounds like his problem." Then I hung up. For most people, a birthday cake is just flour, sugar, and candles. For Ava, that cake was proof that she mattered. She had spent 3 weeks talking about it, asking every night if the butterflies would be purple enough, if the letters would be neat enough, if people would clap when she blew out the candles. She was turning 8. Money had been tight that year, and I had saved little by little to make that party feel special. I was not trying to impress anyone. I just wanted my daughter to have one afternoon where she felt chosen. That was why the sight of that cake in the garbage did something to me I still cannot fully explain. It was not only the cake. It was the way my family froze. It was the way no one bent down or told Ava it was not her fault. It was the way Mike looked at my child's ruined birthday and acted like he had done something clever. My mother, Helen, stood near the dessert table with one hand pressed to her mouth, but she did not correct him. She looked at me like she was silently begging me not to make a scene. That had always been my job: keep the peace, swallow the insult, smooth the tablecloth over the crack in the wood, and pretend everything looked fine. Mike had always been the golden one. When we were kids, if he broke something, I was told to be patient because boys were rough. If he failed a class, he was under pressure. If I did anything less than perfectly, I was dramatic or difficult. After my divorce, when I moved into a smaller apartment and started rebuilding my life as an event coordinator, my mother told me not to burden the family with my problems. But when Mike got engaged to Olivia and realized weddings cost more than attention, suddenly everyone expected me to help. I recommended vendors, reviewed his contracts, warned him that the venue required final payment 2 weeks before the wedding, and used one of my professional contacts to get him a reduced rate on the ballroom, because despite everything, I still believed family should show up for family. That was before he threw my daughter's cake away. After we left the restaurant, Ava did not cry at first. That made it worse. She sat in the back seat holding her paper crown, looking out the window like she was trying to be older than she was. Halfway home, she whispered, "Did Uncle Mike throw it away because I did something bad?" I pulled the car over. I turned around and told her as clearly as I could, "No, baby. You did nothing wrong." Sometimes grown-ups behave badly because they have ugly things inside them, and they try to hand those ugly things to other people. Her lip trembled, and she finally cried. I climbed into the back seat and held her while cars rushed past us. That night, after Ava fell asleep, Mike texted me, "Look, I'm sorry if you got emotional about the cake. Wedding stress is killing me. Let's move on." He was not sorry he hurt Ava. He was sorry I reacted. A minute later, "Also, Mom said the venue might call you tomorrow. Please don't make this weird." The next morning, my mother called before 8. "Mia, the venue says Mike's final payment never cleared. They need confirmation from you because your name is connected to the booking." I sat up straight. "My name is what?" She cried harder. "Please, honey, just call them. If they cancel, everyone will blame you. Not everyone will blame him for failing to pay. Everyone will blame you." I told her no. She gasped. Mia, this is your brother's wedding. I looked at the hallway where Ava's birthday decorations were still folded in a grocery bag. And yesterday was my daughter's birthday, I said. He made his choice. Now I'm making mine. Then my email chimed. Subject line, final notice regarding Reynolds Hart wedding reservation. 3 words in bold. Guarantor's signature required. According to their records, my professional account had been used to secure Mike and Olivia's wedding reservation. My business name, Mia Reynolds Events, was listed as the coordinating party. And there was a scanned copy of a form that looked, from a distance, like it had my signature on it. It was not my signature. It was close enough to make my stomach twist, but wrong enough to make me furious. The loop in the R was too stiff. The last name rushed like someone had copied it while irritated. Mike had taken the sample documents I sent him months earlier, the ones I marked up so he could understand venue terms, and decided that my advice was the same thing as my permission. Or worse, he had known exactly what he was doing and assumed I would clean up the mess before anyone noticed. I called Elise, the venue manager I had worked with before. She sounded relieved to hear my voice, which told me Mike had already been difficult. My company never guaranteed anything, I told her. I recommended the venue, reviewed their contract as a favor, and introduced them to your sales office. That is it. There was a pause. The form we have says otherwise. Then the form is false. Elise softened. She had known me for years and knew I was careful with contracts. She said if I sent a written statement, they could remove my company from the reservation, but the couple would need to pay the full outstanding balance by 5 p.m. that day or the ballroom would be released. It was 9:12 in the morning. Mike had less than 8 hours to fix a problem he had created. Before I could draft the statement, my phone exploded. 3 calls from my mother, 2 from Mike, a text from an aunt I barely spoke to. Then a message from Mike, do not talk to the venue until you talk to me. Not please. Not I am sorry. Just an order. The old Mia would have panicked, called him back, listened to excuses, and probably tried to negotiate a payment plan so the wedding could survive and everyone could keep pretending Mike was unlucky instead of irresponsible. But then Ava walked into the kitchen, saw my face, and asked, is Uncle Mike mad at you because of me? That question cut through every old habit I had. I knelt in front of her and took both her hands. No. He is mad because I am not letting him hurt us and then use us. I sent Elise a formal email stating I had not signed, authorized, guaranteed, coordinated, financed, or accepted liability for Mike's wedding. I attached copies of my real signature from past contracts, the original email where I had introduced Mike as a private family referral, and a clear statement that any use of my business name must be removed immediately. My finger hovered over send for a long second. I remembered Ava staring at her cake in the trash, and I pressed it. 5 minutes later, Elise replied, received. We will proceed accordingly. Mike called again. This time I answered. He did not say hello. What did you do? I leaned against the counter. I told the truth. He laughed sharply. You're trying to ruin my wedding because of a cake? You used my business name without permission, and I removed it. He went quiet for half a second, just long enough for me to hear fear under his anger. Then, you always fix things. Don't act brand new now. That sentence told me more than any apology could have. He had not accidentally expected my help. He had built his entire plan around it. Then he said the thing that changed everything. If you don't call Elise and put your name back on that account, I'll tell everyone you're jealous because Olivia's getting the wedding you never had. My divorce had been one of the most painful seasons of my life, and he knew that. He knew exactly where to press. But instead of breaking, something inside me settled. I said, Mike, yesterday you threw away my daughter's birthday cake. Today you threatened me because I won't cover your lie. Keep talking, because every word is making my decision easier. He cursed. You're choosing a kid's feelings over your brother's future. I looked at Ava, who was sitting at the table drawing butterflies on a blank paper plate. Yes, I said. Every single time. Then I ended the call. By noon, the family group chat had become a courtroom where I was the accused and the only one not invited to defend myself. Mike wrote that I was refusing to help because I wanted attention. My mother asked everyone to pray I softened my heart. When a cousin asked what happened, Mike replied, "She's mad about dessert." That's literally it. Dessert. That was what he called my daughter's humiliation. I did not respond. I took screenshots, saved voicemails, and printed the venue email. Not because I wanted to destroy him, but because I had learned that when entitled people lose control, they rewrite history fast. At 3:47 p.m., Mike showed up at my apartment. I sent Ava to her room with headphones and a movie, then opened the door and stepped into the doorway to block him. He started with the performance version of an apology. He was sorry about the cake. He was under insane pressure. The wedding was in 3 days, and this was not the time to punish him. My mother nodded eagerly. I looked at her and said, "He apologized because the venue gave him a deadline." "What do you want from me?" Mike said. "It was a cake." I felt my face go calm. "Tell me why you threw it away." His eyes darted to my mother. "It was in the way." "Of what?" "The dessert table. We were discussing wedding details, and you made the whole afternoon about Ava." There it was. He had not tossed the cake because it was damaged. He had tossed it because Ava's birthday interrupted the spotlight he believed belonged to him. "It was her birthday," I said. "She's 8. She would have forgotten by next week if you didn't make it a trauma." The words hit me, but they did not knock me down. They clarified him entirely. My mother reached for my arm. "Mia, I know he was wrong, but don't let one mistake ruin his life." One mistake. The fake signature, the unpaid venue, the threats, the public lies, the cake in the garbage, the insult to Ava, all reduced to one mistake. "Mom," I said quietly, "when he threw away Ava's cake, you stood there. When he insulted her, you stood there. When he used my company name, you called me to fix it. Do you understand what you are asking me to teach my daughter?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I'm asking you to keep the family together." "No. You are asking me to keep Mike comfortable." Mike stepped closer and lowered his voice. "You owe me. For being your brother. For all the years Mom had to worry about you after your divorce. For all the times the family had to listen to your problems." My mother whispered for him to stop. He kept going. "You act like Ava is the only kid in the world. She needs to learn she's not special." The hallway went silent. Even he seemed to realize he had said the quiet part out loud. I opened the door wider, not to let him in, but to make the exit clear. "Leave." He laughed bitterly. "You're choosing her over us?" I looked him straight in the eye. "There is no us that requires me to sacrifice my child." He pointed at me. "Then don't come to the wedding." I wasn't planning to attend a celebration built on fraud and cruelty. His face twisted. "You'll regret this." I shook my head. "No, Mike. For the first time, I don't think I will." He turned and dragged my mother toward the elevator. Before the doors closed, he shouted, "When this wedding gets canceled, everyone will know it was because of you." I closed the door, locked it, and stood with my back against it until my breathing slowed. A few minutes later, Ava came out of her room. Her headphones were around her neck. She slipped her hand into mine and asked softly, "Mom, am I special?" I dropped to my knees so fast they hit the floor. "Yes," I said, pulling her close. "You are special. Not because you are better than anyone else, but because every child deserves to be loved, protected, and celebrated." She hugged me hard. That was the moment my anger turned into something cleaner. I no longer wanted revenge in the way people imagine it. I wanted truth. I wanted consequences. I wanted my daughter to see that when someone tries to make you small, you do not shrink to keep them comfortable. The next morning, Olivia called me. Her voice was quiet. "Did Mike use your business name without permission?" "Yes." "And did he throw away Ava's cake?" "Yes." A pause. "He told me the cake was already ruined and you blamed him because you were upset about the wedding." "Of course he did." She asked me to send her everything. Sending those screenshots felt like crossing a line, but I asked myself who had drawn that line and who benefited from it. Mike had already lied to her. Silence would not be kindness. So I sent Olivia the venue email, Elise's confirmation, Mike's thread about my divorce, and the screenshot where he called Ava's birthday dessert drama. I added no commentary. The truth was ugly enough. An hour later, the family chat changed. Olivia's father wrote that he had been told I was handling payment security as a professional courtesy. Olivia replied that it had become her family's matter when Mike lied to them about the venue. For years I had pushed against the wall alone. Suddenly someone was pushing from the other side. The following morning I went to the venue. The lobby was tense. Mike stood near the reception desk in a navy suit he had clearly worn to look responsible. My mother sat on a velvet bench with red eyes. Olivia stood beside her parents, pale but composed. Elise waited behind the desk with a folder in front of her, professional and calm in the way people become when the rules will not bend. The moment Mike saw me, he moved fast. "Tell them this is a misunderstanding." "It is not." His eyes flicked toward Olivia. "Mia, I swear if you embarrass me." "You embarrassed yourself when you forged my involvement." Olivia's father stepped forward. "Forged?" Mike spun around. "She agreed to help, then got mad about a cake, and now she's weaponizing paperwork." I opened my bag, took out a folder, and handed copies to Elise and Olivia. "These are the emails where I introduced Mike to the venue. I never agreed to coordinate, guarantee, or sign anything. These are samples of my real signature. And this is the form the venue received." Elise confirmed my company had been removed from liability and that the remaining balance was due from the couple directly. Mike laughed thinly. "We can pay after the wedding. The gifts alone will cover it." Olivia turned to him. "You plan to pay the venue with wedding gifts?" He froze. "You told me the venue was fully handled." He glanced at me with hatred. She offered. "No," I said. "I helped you read a contract. You turned that into access." Olivia's father asked Elise for the outstanding amount. When she gave it, the lobby went silent. Mike had not been short a little. He had built a wedding on money he did not have and a sister he assumed would be too guilty to say no. My mother stood and asked if I could temporarily put my name back. I looked at her and said, "If I sign, I become responsible for his debt." "But family helps family." "Then ask Mike why he did not help Ava when he hurt her." Olivia turned to Mike and asked him directly whether he threw away Ava's cake because he was angry her party was getting attention. His face flushed. "It was a stupid cake." She flinched. He kept going. "Everyone is acting like I committed a crime. She's a kid. She would have gotten over it." Olivia's sister said quietly, "That tells me everything." Olivia removed her engagement ring. She did not scream. She simply held it in her palm and looked at it like it had become unfamiliar. "Mike, I asked you for honesty for months about money, about the venue, about why you were angry at Mia. You lied every time. Liv, don't do this here." "Where should I do it?" "At the altar." Mike's bravado cracked. "Baby, please. Mia just needs to make one call." Every eye turned to me. The old script waited. I took a breath. "No. I will not call Elise as your coordinator. I will not guarantee your balance. I will not lie to Olivia. I will not teach my daughter that cruelty gets rewarded if the cruel person cries loudly enough." Elise closed the folder. "Without payment, the ballroom will be released at 5 p.m. Mike looked around wildly. "So that's it? You're all just letting her ruin my wedding?" Olivia's father answered calmly. "No, son. You did that." Mike turned to my mother expecting rescue. She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had no magic sentence that could turn his consequences into my obligation. Olivia walked to me before leaving. "I'm sorry about Ava," she said, her voice breaking on my daughter's name. "I should have asked more questions sooner." I nodded. "I hope you ask them now." She looked at the ring in her hand. "I am." Then she walked out with her parents. Mike followed her halfway, begging, but she did not stop. I stood in that beautiful lobby surrounded by marble floors and dying wedding plans, feeling something I had not expected. Not joy, not satisfaction exactly. Relief. The kind that comes when a heavy door finally closes and you realize you were never required to hold it open. By evening, the wedding was officially postponed, though everyone knew that word was a kindness. The florist canceled. The band kept the deposit. Olivia's family took their daughter home. Mike sent one final message from a new number. "I hope you're happy. You cost me everything." I read it once and deleted it. Not because it did not hurt, but because I finally understood that Mike would rather lose everything than own anything. He lost the venue because he did not pay. He lost Olivia's trust because he lied. He lost my protection because he mistook love for weakness. I did not cost him everything. I only stopped paying the emotional bill. My mother came over 2 days later holding Ava's paper crown. One of the servers had found it at the restaurant and given it to her. The crown was bent but still blue. She held it like evidence. When he said that about her, I should have stopped him, she said. I was so focused on keeping the day from exploding that I forgot who was being hurt. I wanted to forgive her immediately. That was another old instinct. But forgiveness without change is just another chore handed to the wounded person. Ava needed a grandmother that day, I said. I needed a mother. We both got a referee. She covered her mouth and nodded. We talked for almost an hour. She admitted Mike had borrowed money from her twice for wedding expenses and told her not to mention it to Olivia. She admitted she had suspected he used my business name, but convinced herself I must have allowed it because believing otherwise meant admitting who he had become. You protected the version of him you wanted, I told her. And you left the real damage for me and Ava. She did not argue. Before leaving, she asked if she could apologize to Ava in person. I told her not yet. Not because I wanted to punish her, but because Ava was not a place for adults to go when they wanted relief from guilt. My mother accepted that, and for the first time, she did not call me difficult. Mike never truly apologized. A week later, he left a voicemail saying, "I'm sorry things got out of hand, but you have to admit you went too far." I saved it, not because I planned to use it, but because sometimes you need a reminder when guilt tries to rewrite the past. Olivia later messaged me that she had ended the engagement. She thanked me for telling the truth and said she wished she had listened to the small warnings earlier, the unpaid bills he brushed off, the cruel jokes he called honesty, the way he treated kindness toward a child like an inconvenience. I wished her peace and meant it. As for Ava, healing came in small moments. She stopped asking if she had done something wrong. She taped a picture of her replacement cake above her desk. One night while brushing her teeth, she said, "Mom, next year can we have cupcakes instead? So everyone gets their own." I laughed for the first time in days. Then she added, "And only nice people can come." That sentence stayed with me. It sounded childish, but maybe it was the clearest boundary anyone in my family had ever spoken. People later asked if I felt guilty for not saving Mike's wedding. The honest answer is complicated. I felt sad my family had reached that point. I grieved the brother I used to defend, the mother I used to excuse, and the version of myself who believed love meant endless rescue. But guilt? No. Guilt belongs to people who betray their values. That day at the venue, I honored mine. I did not sabotage his wedding. I did not spread rumors. I simply removed my name from a lie, told the truth when asked, and refused to reward cruelty with protection. Mike's biggest mistake was not only throwing away the cake, though that was cruel enough. His biggest mistake was assuming the woman who had spent years holding the family together would keep doing it after he hurt her child. He thought I would be too afraid of being blamed, too conditioned by loyalty, too embarrassed by divorce, too desperate for approval. He forgot that motherhood can change the shape of courage. I might have tolerated disrespect when it was aimed at me, but when he aimed it at Ava, he introduced me to a version of myself he had never met. Now, when I think about that cake in the garbage, I still feel anger, but I also feel gratitude for the moment it revealed everything. It showed me who laughed, who stayed silent, who lied, who asked questions, and who finally walked away. It taught me that some family bonds are not broken by boundaries. They are exposed by them. And it taught my daughter something I hope she carries forever. When someone throws away your joy, you do not climb into the trash to prove it had value. You walk away, protect your peace, and let them explain why they thought they had the right.